Hello, it is 1DM here, and Secrets of Magic has dropped. Over the next month or two, I hope to make videos highlighting the new variant rules for types of magic, as well as possibly guides for playing the new Summoner and Magus classes effectively. Please let me know in the comments if you have any more specific things you'd like to see a deep dive into in the coming weeks. Today, though, I'll be looking at one of the new categories of spells introduced, known as Contingency Magic. Contingency spells are spells built around the idea of preparing for a contingency. They're spells that prepare in advance for a certain possible outcome and react strongly if that outcome occurs. There are 7 of these spells introduced in Secrets of Magic. They're identified by the contingency trait, which specifies that you can only have one contingency effect active at a time. This means a character can't build around multiple of these. However, their uses vary pretty widely, and they also vary by what spell lists they're on. 3 of them are on all lists, Arcane and Divine have 3 others, and Occult has only 1 other. So any spellcaster could potentially make use of some of these spells. But enough introduction. Let's look at each individual contingency spell in order of their level to discuss how you could use it and who it's for. The first spell on our list is Instant Armor, a level 2 spell for all spellcasting traditions. It takes 10 minutes to cast and lasts 24 hours, which is a common trait to all contingency spells. It lets you move your armor into an extra dimensional space from which you can recall it onto your body as a single action. That's all it does. What is this useful for? It's good if you want to go into a social encounter like a party looking unarmored but be ready for a fight to break out. I think most tables assume adventurers are still wearing armor in situations like that, if only because playing without armor feels like punishing players for roleplay or flavor decisions. So at most tables, I can't see this being needed hardly ever, unfortunately. At the right table, in the right campaign though, it could be a lifesaver. Next up is Lucky Number, another second level spell for all traditions except Primal. You take 10 minutes to cast it, and then roll a d20. During the coming day, you can re-roll a single attack, save, or skill check on which you rolled the same result on the d20. This one is more interesting. The danger is that if your lucky number roll is high, then you won't actually want to re-roll a check with the same die roll, which means the spell has a pretty good chance of being useless. In its best case scenario, you get to re-roll a single roll during the adventuring day, but you don't really get to choose when. So it's very flavorful and not terrible, but it's still not great. The last second level spell is Summoner's Precaution, for all spellcasting traditions, but it requires that you have an Eidolon, so it's only usable by summoners or characters with the Summoner multi-class dedication. Once in the coming day, when your Eidolon takes damage that would drop you to 0 hit points, remember you and your Eidolon share hit points, you can use your reaction to cancel the damage by unmanifesting your Eidolon, which then can't be remanifested for a minute. I actually really like this spell. If you're playing a summoner who uses their Eidolon as a frontline combatant, there's plenty of chance for it to take a lot of damage and drop you. This spell simply allows you to stay up for a bit longer and continue contributing to the fight, though at a significant cost of losing your main damage dealing capabilities. The big downside to this spell is a bit hard to spot though. Because of the Summoner's bounded spellcasting, you have to spend one of just 4 slots to cast Summoner's Precaution, and once you're level 7, you'd have to waste a higher level slot on a second level spell. So unless you have another way of getting some low level slots, this spell is only really good from levels 3 to 7, at which point you can safely remove it from your repertoire. Now we're on to third level spells. Life Connection is on the Divine and Primal spell lists. After casting it on a creature, once in the coming day, you can choose to take a single instance of damage for them. This is very nice for a caster who routinely sticks to the back of the party and doesn't often go down in a fight. I don't think I'd want to spend my highest level slots on it, but if you have the slots, this is a solid way to help defend your marshals. This is one contingency spell that you can be certain will be triggered during the day, so it won't go to waste. Mind of Menace is another third level spell, this time for all traditions. After casting it on yourself for 10 minutes, you can use a reaction once in the coming day to retaliate against a mental effect before saving. The creature using the mental effect makes their own will save, and if it fails, it's frightened and you gain +2 to your save. If it crit fails, you're unaffected instead. This is a pretty strong effect, but it's a bit harder of a spell to use because it requires being targeted with a mental effect. These aren't uncommon, to be sure, but I wouldn't say they happen every adventuring day. If you expect it to happen, the spell's great. If not, it's hard to say, which is I think exactly what the designers aimed for in making these spells, so that's a success on this one. Ocular Overload is a 4th level spell for all traditions except Divine. after casting once in the coming day, you can react to a creature about to make an attack roll against you. They make a Fortitude save. On a success, they're dazzled till the end of the turn, making you concealed from the attack, which gives them a 20% mischance. If they fail, they're instead blinded, making you hidden, giving a 50% mischance. On a critical fail, they're blinded for the turn and then dazzled for a whole minute. This effect is not incredibly strong, I'll admit. If a creature fails their save, they have a 50% chance to miss you. That's not a lot for a 4th level spell. The situation where this is more useful is using this on an enemy's first attack of the round when you expect them to take more, in which case you can confer a mischance to multiple attacks. So the spell is pretty strong in that case, and you can be reasonably confident its trigger will occur in any given day. A solid spell overall. The final contingency spell is the namesake of the category. It's the 7th level spell named simply Contingency. It's only available to arcane casters. It's essentially a much more general case of all the other contingency spells. When casting this spell, you cast it as a 7th level spell and cast another spell of 4th level or lower that can affect you, and choose a trigger on which you can use that spell as a reaction. Note that this spell actually doesn't have the contingency trait, which means you could use it at the same time as another contingency spell. In terms of usefulness though, this spell is a lot harder to judge because its effectiveness depends so much on the creativity of the caster. You could be simple and save actions by using haste or blink as a reaction when combat breaks out. You could prepare to fight casters by using Umbral Gift as a reaction when a creature with an active spell effect on it moves into melee range, giving you a chance to steal that spell from them. Even more specific triggers could be useful in more specific circumstances. I love this spell because it encourages an arcane caster to really look at their spellbook in detail and think hard about what they could do, which is so much in the spirit of what arcane casters are in universe. I think that's super fun. In summary, contingency magic is all about preparing a contingency plan for certain scenarios. Instant armor is pretty lackluster, and lucky number doesn't seem all that good to me, but the other 5 spells are actually quite effective, and I could definitely see myself using them in a game. The overall design of the spells is really cool as well, emphasizing the need to think ahead and search for possibilities. In this regard, I actually somewhat dislike the design of Life Connection and Ocular Overload, or Contingency itself when used on an obvious trigger like combat starting, simply because their triggers are so ubiquitous. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that from the perspective of trying to use the spell, but to me, contingency magic should require you to think about what outcomes to plan for. Triggering a spell when you're attacked doesn't require much thought. So in this sense, some of these spells are almost too easy to use, when ideally they should take careful thought and planning. Don't take this as a big complaint though. Some of these spells do this perfectly, like Mind of Menace, and the others are still fun and useful spells. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this style of casting, and would love to see a few more spells added to the category in the future. What did you think of these spells? Did I underrate any of them? Leave a comment telling me how I'm dumb. If you enjoyed the video, also feel free to like and subscribe to let me know I should make more like it, and to feed the algorithm. If you didn't, please let me know what I could do better or what you'd like to see instead. But this is 1DM out. Have a great day.